At first glance, it may seem like just another foreign concept that promises happiness or success, but the truth is far deeper. This single idea attempts to answer one of the oldest human questions. Why do we wake up in the morning? Some people live long lives filled with calm satisfaction, reaching old age with a sense of peace and completion. Others, even surrounded by comfort and opportunity, move through life with a quiet feeling of emptiness they cannot fully explain. What creates this difference? For years, I believed the answer was hidden in achievement, goals, money, recognition, progress. Like many people, I chased milestones thinking the next success would finally deliver a lasting sense of meaning. And each time I reached one, the satisfaction faded faster than I expected. Have you ever felt that strange contradiction? When everything looks fine on the outside, yet something inside still feels unfinished. That silent question stayed with me for a long time. Far from the noise of modern cities, in the southern islands of Japan, there is a place that quietly challenges everything we assume about aging and happiness. Okinawa. This island is known for something remarkable, an unusually high number of people who live past 100 years old, not merely surviving, but living with energy, clarity, and emotional balance. Naturally, researchers searched for explanations. Was it genetics, diet, climate? Those factors mattered, but none of them told the full story. Because when scientists and anthropologists spent real time with the elders of Okinawa, they discovered something less visible, yet far more powerful. Almost every long-living person shared a clear sense of purpose, no matter how small it appeared from the outside. Not a grand mission, not fame, not wealth, just a reason to keep participating in life. And that reason was their Ikigai. In many Western books and motivational talks, Ikigai is often explained using a sort of colorful diagram of 4 overlapping circles. What you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for. It looks neat, logical, efficient. But here is something surprising. That famous diagram did not originate in traditional Japanese philosophy. It was created much later as a simplified coaching tool. Useful, perhaps, but incomplete, because real Ikigai is not a formula you solve once. It is not a perfect career intersection. And it is definitely not a productivity shortcut. In Japan, the idea is quieter, more patient, more ordinary, more human. Ikigai can live inside the smallest daily routine. Watering plants, preparing food, greeting a neighbor, caring for a grandchild, keeping a street clean. Not dramatic, but deeply meaningful. One researcher studying Okinawan centenarians once described meeting a man in his late 90s. Every single morning, without exception, the man walked slowly to the beach near his home. There, he spent time collecting small pieces of trash left by the tide or by visitors. Nothing heroic, nothing impressive, no audience, no reward. When asked why he continued this routine at his age, his answer was simple. So the children who come after me will find a clean shore. That was his Ikigai. Not a title, not an achievement, just a quiet contribution that gave his days direction. And hearing that story forced me to confront an uncomfortable truth. I had been searching for meaning only in big moments, while real purpose was often hiding in ordinary ones. Across the world today, millions of people spend most of their waking hours doing work that does not truly fulfill them. Surveys repeatedly show a striking pattern. A large majority feel emotionally disconnected from what they do every day. And at the same time, rates of anxiety, burnout, and depression continue to rise. Even in societies with unprecedented comfort and technology, this creates a paradox. We have more convenience than any generation before us, yet often less inner satisfaction. Why? Because somewhere along the way, many people lost contact with a simple but essential question. What makes my life feel useful? Today, not someday. Ikigai begins exactly there. Not in distant dreams, not in future success, but in the present contribution, however small it may seem. For a long time, I believed purpose had to be discovered in a dramatic breakthrough, a sudden realization that would explain everything. But the deeper I explored this Japanese philosophy, the more I understood something unexpected. Ikigai is rarely loud. It does not arrive with fireworks. It does not announce itself as destiny. Instead, it appears quietly, in the activities that give you a calm sense of rightness, in moments that feel meaningful even when nobody notices, in actions you would still choose to do, even without reward or recognition. And once you begin to notice those moments, a different way of living slowly begins to form, not rushed, not forced, just aligned. But this is only the beginning, because understanding Ikigai is not just about personal happiness. It is also deeply connected to community, relationships, and the way we move through time itself. And in part 2, we will explore a powerful Japanese tradition that shows why no one truly finds purpose alone, and how this discovery changes everything about the way we think of success, aging, and belonging. If the earlier reflection revealed that meaning often hides inside the smallest daily moments, the next realization is even more unexpected. A true sense of purpose is rarely built in isolation. Many modern societies celebrate independence as the highest form of strength. From a young age, people are encouraged to rely only on themselves, to compete, to stand apart, and to prove their worth without help. Success is often portrayed as a lonely climb, where needing others is seen as weakness rather than wisdom. At first, this idea feels powerful. It promises control, freedom, and recognition. Yet beneath that promise, something quieter begins to grow. Disconnection, not always visible, not always dramatic, but deeply felt. Because human beings were never designed to carry life entirely alone. Across cultures and centuries, the longest living and most emotionally balanced communities share one quiet characteristic: strong, consistent social bonds. Not superficial contact, not digital attention, but real presence. People who know your story, who notice your absence, who walk beside you through ordinary days. On the Japanese island of Okinawa, where many people live far beyond 100 years, this idea takes a beautiful and practical form through a tradition known as moai. A moai is not simply a group of friends. It is a lifelong circle of mutual support. Often formed in childhood, these small communities meet regularly for decades. They share meals, conversations, worries, laughter, and responsibility. When one person struggles, the others quietly step closer. When one succeeds, the joy belongs to everyone. Nothing about it is dramatic, and yet its impact is profound. Researchers who studied longevity in Okinawa noticed a striking pattern. Individuals who belonged to strong social groups consistently lived longer, experienced lower stress, and maintained a clearer sense of emotional stability deep into old age. The reason was not mysterious. They were never truly alone. Purpose in this environment is not a private possession. It is something strengthened through connection. This challenges one of the most common modern assumptions, that meaning must be discovered entirely within oneself. While inner reflection is important, the experience of being useful to others often gives purpose its real shape. A conversation that comforts someone, a shared routine that creates belonging, a responsibility that reminds you that your presence matters. These small interactions quietly answer a powerful question. Does my life make a difference to someone today? When the answer is yes, even in a modest way, emptiness begins to lose its hold. There is another observation researchers made while studying the world's longest living communities. From Okinawa to certain Mediterranean mountain villages, people who remained active in their communities late in life did not simply live longer. They lived with direction. They continued teaching, helping, repairing, cooking, guiding, listening. Their roles evolved with age, but their usefulness never disappeared. Society did not push them aside. Instead, it allowed them to remain woven into daily life. This stands in sharp contrast to a common modern pattern, where retirement is treated as a sudden separation between usefulness and rest, as if contribution has an expiration date. But when contribution stops completely, something subtle can fade with it, the feeling of being needed. And without that feeling, days may become lighter in responsibility, yet heavier in meaninglessness. The wisdom behind Ikigai suggests something different. Not endless labor, not exhaustion, but continued participation in life, in whatever form is possible. A smaller role, perhaps, a slower rhythm, yet still a role that matters. Because purpose does not measure speed or status. It measures connection and contribution. At some point, this realization becomes personal. It raises a quiet but uncomfortable question. If all titles, achievements, and external markers disappeared tomorrow, who would remain? Not the professional identity, not the reputation, not the numbers, just the human presence beneath them. For many people, this question is easy to avoid in the noise of daily ambition. But when life slows down, even briefly, it returns with surprising clarity. And sometimes, that moment of questioning becomes the beginning of transformation. Not dramatic, not visible from the outside, but deeply real. Because instead of asking, how can I become more successful? The question slowly changes into, how can I become more useful, more present, more alive in the lives around me? This shift is subtle, yet powerful. It moves purpose away from distant achievement and places it gently inside today. There is also a hidden obstacle that makes this shift difficult in modern life. Speed. Constant urgency teaches the mind to chase the next task, the next goal, the next improvement. Reflection begins to feel unproductive, and stillness appears almost uncomfortable. Yet without moments of pause, it becomes nearly impossible to notice where genuine meaning already exists. Japanese culture holds a long tradition of intentional reflection. Time set aside, not for efficiency, but for honest self-examination. This practice is not about criticism alone. It is about alignment. A quiet return to the question of whether one's actions match one's deeper values. When reflection disappears, life can continue moving forward while meaning quietly falls behind. But when reflection returns, even briefly, something changes. Attention sharpens. Gratitude deepens. Ordinary moments regain color. And slowly, the sense of direction that once felt distant begins to reappear. Not as a grand revelation, but as a steady, inner clarity. Another gentle idea within Japanese thought speaks of the impermanence of all things. The awareness that every moment, no matter how simple, will eventually pass. Rather than creating sadness, this awareness can create intensity. A cup of tea becomes more meaningful, a conversation more precious, a quiet evening more complete, because nothing is guaranteed to repeat exactly the same way again. Seen through this lens, purpose is no longer a distant destination, waiting somewhere in the future. It becomes something experienced now, in the way attention is given to the present moment and to the people within it. And perhaps this is where the deeper transformation truly begins. Not in discovering a single grand answer, but in recognizing that meaning grows through daily care. Like a garden that responds not to force, but to patience. Something tended, something revisited, something shared. Because the quiet truth behind Ikigai is this: a meaningful life is not built in isolation, not found in constant speed, and not proven through external success alone. It is slowly formed through connection, through contribution, and through the courage to remain present in ordinary days. And yet, even with this understanding, one essential question still remains unanswered. If purpose is quiet, shared, and grown over time, how does a person begin to recognize their own? That final step is often the most personal and the most transformative of all. Then the search becomes quieter. Not because the question disappears, but because the way of asking it changes. At the beginning, many people look for purpose the way they look for an object. Something hidden, something distant, something that must be discovered through effort or intelligence. They expect a clear sign, a sudden certainty, a moment where everything finally makes sense. But real meaning rarely arrives like a lightning strike. More often, it reveals itself the way dawn arrives, slowly, gently, almost unnoticed until the darkness is already gone. One of the most confusing parts of the journey is learning to distinguish temporary excitement from lasting purpose. Excitement is loud, fast, emotional. It promises transformation in a single moment. Meaning is different. It is usually calm, steady, quietly satisfying, rather than intensely thrilling. Excitement asks, how do I feel right now? Meaning asks, does this feel worth continuing? Because Ikigai is not built from short emotional peaks. It is built from actions you are willing to repeat, even on ordinary days, even without applause, even when no one is watching. This is why some of the most meaningful lives appear simple from the outside. Their depth is not in constant intensity, but in consistent sincerity. When people say they don't know their purpose, it is often not because purpose is absent. It is because its signals are subtle, a quiet sense of peace while doing something simple, time passing quickly during a modest task, a natural desire to help in a specific way, energy that appears when contributing to others, even if the activity seems insignificant. These moments rarely look important enough to change a life, so they are dismissed. Yet, if you follow them carefully, they begin forming a pattern, a direction that cannot always be explained logically, but feels undeniably real. Ikigai often speaks in whispers. Modern life is simply very loud. Another obstacle appears almost everywhere today: constant comparison. Through screens and numbers, people are shown endless images of success, Faster achievements, bigger results, louder recognition. Gradually, a silent belief forms. If my life looks smaller, maybe it matters less. But meaning does not follow visibility, and contribution does not require scale. A life can influence thousands and still feel empty. Another can influence only a few and feel deeply complete. Because Ikigai is not measured by how many people see it, but by how genuinely it is lived. When comparison fades, clarity often returns. And with clarity comes a quieter question. What feels sincerely mine, even if no one praises it? That question is closer to purpose than any external approval. There is a hidden kind of bravery rarely celebrated. The courage to live a life that may never appear extraordinary from the outside, yet feels deeply meaningful from within. To care for family with patience. To do honest work with attention. To help quietly without recognition. To keep showing up with kindness in ordinary places. None of this attracts headlines, but much of the world is held together by exactly these unseen acts. Ikigai does not demand greatness. It asks for genuineness. And sometimes the most radical choice is not to chase a dramatic destiny, but to fully inhabit the life already in front of you. At a certain point, the search softens. You stop asking, what is my single grand mission? And begin asking, what kind of presence do I want to bring into today? The shift is subtle, but everything changes, because purpose is no longer postponed to the future. It becomes something practiced in the present, in the way you listen, in the care you give, in the honesty you choose, in the patience you offer, in the small good you repeat. And strangely, when life is lived this way, larger direction often appears on its own, not forced, not chased, but naturally revealed through consistent attention. In the end, Ikigai may be simpler than anyone expects. Not a secret formula, not a perfect career, not a final destination, reached once and for all, but a way of walking through life with awareness that your existence, however ordinary it seems, can still carry value. A reason to wake up that does not depend on applause. A contribution that may be small, yet deeply real. And perhaps the most comforting truth of all, you do not have to transform the entire world to justify your place in it. Sometimes it is enough to brighten a single corner of it. Again and again, day after day, with quiet sincerity. And if you listen carefully, in the still moments between noise and hurry, you may begin to notice something gentle already waiting inside you. Not a loud answer, not a dramatic revelation, just a calm, steady feeling that whispers, "This is worth continuing."